Welcome back, everybody. It's been a long time since we have posted on this channel. For those of you who have been following along since the beginning, the channel is called If You Only Knew Gabby Reyes. But as of recent months, God has placed on my heart that this channel is meant to be a channel for testimonies. And the title that he gave us was Casting Deeper. It's been a long time since we filmed, but we're back. And now we're here to share people's stories. The Word of God says that we defeat the enemy with the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And that's what we're here to do. So on this channel going forward, you're going to see many people's testimonies. And I pray that it impacts you as my testimony, my wife's testimony, Hope's testimony, and Kent's testimony has impacted you and impacted me as I listen to them. We are here to advance the kingdom of God. And today I had the honor of hearing Kristie's story. I pray that this story blesses you and that you see that nothing is too far gone that God can't redeem or make new. Kristie's story has impacted my life, and I know that there's someone out there who needs to hear her story. So in this moment, all I want to say is I pray that you feel His Spirit and her heart behind the story, and that you enjoy what she has to say today. Okay, you and I are just having a conversation, and I want to hear your story. Just tell me, what led you to that point of coming to God? What was the background behind that moment?
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start by just telling you a little bit about myself. I'm from Nashville and grew up going to church, but all kinds of different religions. My mom was married 4 times, so religion was a little bit confusing. My dad was Church Christ. My first stepdad was Baptist. The second stepdad was Catholic. And the last one, I don't even know what he was. I was an adult at that point, so I didn't have to go to church with him anymore. So church was kind of confusing because they're all so different. Church Christ and Baptists are very similar.
Yeah.
But Catholic, completely different. And I did not understand any of that. I didn't feel comfortable in it. I didn't really like it. But even though I believed in God, I always thought of God as a punishing God. I remember when I was little, like being in my room, I would hear my stepdad and my mom fighting, and I would just, I'm trying to remember what I would say, but I would just say to myself, like, God, why? Why is there it was just always fighting and always bad stuff going on inside our house. So I believed he was there.
Sure.
But I didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I did like going to some of the churches that we went to. Mm-hmm. I didn't really like regular church, like adult church.
Yeah.
But like Wednesday night, my mom was the leader of it's called Awana Club. And I thought that was fun because that was just a bunch of fun, like games and stuff.
Yeah.
So I did like Sunday school and Wednesday night church, but actually sitting in the Church Christ with my dad, I hated that. It was so boring and I did not want to be there.
Yeah. I was the same way. So.
Yeah. So it just, but I liked Sunday school. I liked when I was with my peers, like with young people. It's like in my dad's house, my parents were divorced. They got divorced when I was a baby. And so in my dad's house, he talked about religion all the time and the Bible and everything. But my dad was a huge hypocrite. So it was really hard to, I didn't listen to him because none of his actions backed up what he was saying. So when we were little, he would make us go in, instead of going outside to play, we had to go in our room and read our Bible for a certain amount of time. And then he would call us out and he would ask us questions. And so it was never made fun. It was just, it was like study the Bible.
Like a chore, homework.
It was a chore. Yeah, it was like a chore. And we dreaded it. And so... yeah, so the way my dad did church was just not fun. My mom made it a little bit more fun. We my mom played the piano, and my sister and I would sing in church when we were little. I have a terrible voice, but I loved singing when I was little.
Not so much.
So, no, I like to in the car with it really loud, where it drowns my voice out. So I have good memories of church with my mom, but not with my dad. And then, like in high school, then my mom, she was the man she started dating. I mean, I'm going to kind of sound like I'm all over the board, really. I don't really know where to begin. But so I had to start I got baptized in the Catholic Church while they were dating. They'd only been together for a few months, and all of a sudden I'm Catholic.
Yeah.
And then I had gone to public school my whole life, and all of a sudden I'm going to a Catholic high school my freshman year. So that was kind of bizarre. And I was okay with going to the Catholic school only because I heard it was a big party school. So I wasn't a partier at the time, but I knew Father Ryan was considered a really cool school. So I was like, okay.
I'll take it.
And I like the uniforms. They're cute. So I was all good with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like, my dad may have been talking about church and the Bible, but nothing godly was going on in either home. So in my mom's house, my stepdad, the one that was the Baptist, he was an alcoholic that drank every night. He worked really hard. He was a good provider. There's a lot of good things about him that I loved. It was kind of a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
Like, because he traveled during the week. He was a supervisor at a restaurant. And so he would be gone like leave Tuesday and come home on Friday. So during the week, our house was very peaceful. It was nice and quiet. I mean, my sister, she wasn't so peaceful, but at least he wasn't there.
Right.
And so, because he was very physically abusive to my mom. So when he came home on Fridays, we knew everybody's got to, you just keep your mouth shut, because anything you say could set him off. You never knew. So he would work on Saturday too, and then come home Saturday night. So he had this chair that he sat in where he drank his scotch and water and his Planters peanuts, and watched TV. And so we all just kind of danced around him and just tried not to make him angry. And then, so I don't know what my mom would ever do or say, but he would blow up. I mean, now as an adult, I know she didn't do or say anything wrong. But when I was little, I remember saying, Mom, please just don't say anything. Don't say anything. Just don't talk. Because we knew as soon as you talk, you're going to say something wrong.
Yeah.
And he didn't abuse my sister and I physically, but we had to see our mother get
abused. Yeah.
And that was really hard. And so I just remember like us sitting behind the couch, and the dog would be with us because she was scared too. And and you could see it if you wanted to, or you could sit behind the couch, or you could go in your room and close your door. But I always felt I wanted to protect my mom.
Yeah.
And so as we got older, my sister was 3.5 years older, so she would go out, and she started drinking and doing drugs though when she was 12. And so she always hung out with older boys. So then I was usually left by myself with my mom and my stepdad. And so it would, so I rarely would go out to like my friends, because I was scared she'd be dead when I came home. So I would go out and play all day long, but at night I never spent the night out. And I never had friends spend the night, because you didn't know if he was going to blow up. And there was holes in the walls. And so you always had to come up with some excuse. What do you say?
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's a hole in the kitchen cabinet. I don't know what I used to say. But I said something. I would always hang kitchen towels over them. I was very creative. And my mom quit covering things up. I think, after living with an alcoholic for a long time, you quit covering up for them. So when she quit, I started her job.
Yeah.
So when he would make his messes at night in the house, he would break stuff. And if he woke up the next morning, I mean, of course he would know he did it, but I guess he was in a blackout too. So I don't know, but he had to have known. And so if my mom, when she quit cleaning up his messes, he would start cussing and who did this? The house is a disaster. So when she quit cleaning up, I started cleaning up the messes. So I would stay up at night when they would go to bed and clean everything up. And then, like, sometimes, or the way our house was, it was like a big circle, like the kitchen to the den to the living room. And I remember one time he had her trapped in the corner with a butcher knife right next to his hand. And that time I jumped on his back and he pushed me on the floor. But that's the only time he ever put his hands on me. But because of that one night, I would never leave because that butcher block was always there.
Right.
And I thought he was going to kill her. So that was the way it was at my house during the week. Like I said, when he was gone, those 4 days, it was peaceful.
Yeah.
But then once my sister started using, then my mom and her would fight a lot. And so my mom would call me the angel, your mommy's little angel. That's because I took care of her.
Yeah.
And then my sister would be like, what am I, the devil? And basically she would say yes. She would agree with her. She's older. She's 3.5 years older. And then I have a younger sister that's half sister, 7 years younger from my dad. And so there was a lot of tension between them. So I was the go-between. My role in the family was the peacemaker. So when it was not my mom and my stepdad, John, fighting, it was my mom and my sister.
You were the mother.
And then when Kim would go out drinking, my sister, I would stay up at night waiting for her to come home and say, hurry up, get in bed before mom catches you. Because then she would get grounded and get in lots of trouble.
Yeah.
So I was always having to take care of everyone in the family. And then at my dad's house, we had to go over there every other weekend. And I hated my dad. I hated their house. They had a nice house, but at my mom's, again, even though we had my stepdad, like I loved my neighborhood. It's the same neighborhood I live in now. So all my public school friends lived there, and I'm an outdoor kid, so I was outdoors all day long playing. And so I loved being there. And my mom was strict, but fun.
Yeah.
So like, as long as you played by her rules, she wasn't mean, and where my dad was strict and there were so many rules and there was no fun at all. And so when we went there, we didn't really know the neighborhood kids because we were never allowed to play outside.
Oh, wow.
We were always either doing chores of my stepmom and him and my little sister, they're folding their laundry. I mean, we literally felt like Cinderella. We were like,
wow,
we're Cinderella. And so all we did was chores and yard work. And like, we didn't get to play. And if we weren't doing that, then we were reading our Bible.
Right.
And that just was it was just boring. We hated it. And my dad was mean and judgmental, and he was not nice to my stepmom. Like, he wasn't physically abusive to her that I really ever saw. And he wasn't to my mom either, but he was emotionally and verbally. Because where it all started, like, he cheated on my mom while she was pregnant with me and with his secretary, with her, and then married her. So my dad left us right after I was born and married that woman. Wow. And so she never liked me and my sister. And, I'll never understand how you can know somebody since they were born and never tell them you love them and never love them.
Yeah.
How could she have never loved us? Yeah. We were just little kids, little people.
Yeah.
What did we have to do with anything?
Exactly.
But we figured out later why. I mean, obviously, when you're sleeping with a married man, and she would see my mom come into the office pregnant with me, holding hands with my sister. Like, what kind of person does that? Not a good one, in my eyes. I cannot imagine wanting to be with someone else's husband. That just does not appeal to me at all. And I just don't know. So I blame her as much as I blame my dad. Even though she was single and wasn't married,
Right.
she knew what she was doing.
Right.
And, my mom tells me stuff of why she thinks things happen. And I believe her because my stepmom is money hungry. And that was right when my dad was starting to make money. He was in sales and he was very good at it. And so, but they struggled when it was my mom and him. And then that's when he started to make it big, when we're out of the picture, of course. So that's fun. So when we went to my dad's, we hated being there. It was from Friday at 5 to Sunday at 5. And then in the summers, we had to go for 6 weeks. And when we were there, we were not allowed to call our mom, whether it was in the summer or the weekends, no contact with our mom.
Oh, wow.
At all. In this day and age, I don't ever hear of other families saying that they're not allowed to call their other parent.
Right.
So that was really weird because I was really close to my mom and I was always worried about her.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to check on her, make sure she's alive.
Yeah.
And, but we weren't allowed to. And I remember getting caught once on the phone. I was in my dad's, in the rec room, and he has a desk, and I was underneath the desk, whispering on the phone, that's so weird that you have to do that to call your mom.
Right.
And he yelled at me, and get off the phone, and you're with your father. It was just, he was so jealous of her or whatever, I guess, because he knew we were close, we loved her more. And he even asked us a couple times, who do you love more? And we're like, well, you're beating us with a belt right now, so probably her. Probably that one. But I don't think we ever answered.
Yeah.
Figure it out, Dad. So, and then there was other stuff going on at my dad's house. He was sexually abusive to me and my older sister. I think my younger sister recalls one time when she was younger that he tried to do something to her. And then she told her mom, which was my stepmom, and my dad had already gone to her and told my stepmom that my little sister tried to touch him. So trying to cover his tracks.
Blame it on his...
Blame it on a little 6 or 7-year-old girl. Why would a 6 or 7-year-old girl try to touch her dad's private parts?
Right.
So my dad, I guess maybe he got some feeling from her that she was going to tell on him. My sister and I, we never told.
Yeah.
Because we were scared of him.
Of course.
So, so I don't remember when that started. I don't remember when it stopped. All I remember is I hated going there, and it happened always after church. So it wasn't at night, in the middle of the night. My stepmom had to have known because we would come home from church and then she would just disappear. Her and my little sister, once my little sister was born. She was 7 years younger. And it was always me and my sister together, which at least that made us feel safer because we had each other.
Yeah.
We weren't completely alone. And then he would read the Bible to us before or after or both. So that was really gross. And really confusing. So I guess that's where the punishing God comes from, maybe. He's praying and talking about God and reading the Bible, and then we're being abused. It was really confusing. It didn't make any sense. And I don't know why we never told our mom. We were scared of him. I know that. But I don't remember if he said, don't tell your mother. Neither of us remember.
Yeah.
We don't remember. And then I know it stopped when I was 13 because that's when we told my mom. I was 13 and my sister was 16. And when it was summertime, I remember, and we were about to have to go for 6 weeks. And that was miserable. We can handle a weekend, every other weekend, but 6 weeks. And it wasn't just him, it was her. She was awful. Our stepmom was terrible. And so she just was I don't understand. She's I know you girls hate your dad, and I know why you hate him. He's awful. We all hate him. She said, but y'all are... it's like getting worse, like y'all are just refusing more and more to go. And so I just remember me and my sister just kind of looked at each other, and we're like, should we tell her? Like, I don't know why we never discussed it in private. Like, should we tell Mom? Yeah. It's really weird. I don't know. And so we told.
You were so young too. Right?
Yeah.
It's hard to even go back and think what was going through your mind at that point. Yeah.
You don't even understand it. And it wasn't just, there's different types of sexual abuse, overt and covert. Mm-hmm. So more of it was the covert.
Right.
Which I think the overt is the one where it's
open. And covert is the hidden one.
Yes. Yeah. So it was more covert, but it was weird stuff. Yeah. Like you can't really wrap your brain around it. And so when we told my mom, she said, well, we need to take your dad to court. We need to go forward with this. And so we were okay with it. And my mom, I don't know if all of her reasons for wanting to go forward were to protect me and my sister. I think part of it was because she hates my dad so badly. She wanted to see him get exposed.
Yeah.
And I do think that was part of it, which it doesn't matter. Because the bottom line was we were going to court. It did not help, though. So we went to court when I was 13. I think it was right before I was going into 7th grade, I think. And so then my sister, we were supposed to all go, and my sister got shipped off to treatment because she was drinking and smoking pot. So my mom shipped her off to some treatment place in Texas. So I had to go by myself. And that was really scary. And so it was me and my mom, and then my dad and my stepmom and his lawyer. And so we didn't have to, they didn't make me, I went behind chambers since I was so young.
Okay.
And so it was my mom's lawyer, the judge, me, and my dad's lawyer. So, of course, everything that I told the judge and the lawyer went right back to my dad as soon as I walked out of there.
Oh, wow.
So then when we came out, the judge made the decision that we still had to see our dad, but not overnight visits. And it's a female judge. So, then in your head, you're hearing that as a little girl, and you're going, you still have to go to your dad's. After I just told all that stuff.
Right.
And knowing my dad's going to know that within minutes of what I said. And so my only guess is because more of the abuse was the covert than the penetration stuff, that maybe, does she think that's okay? I don't know. But a female judge, I mean, me now as an adult and a mom, I think I would have lost it.
Right.
If I would have been my mom, I don't remember how my mom reacted.
Sure.
But I would have lost it. They would have had to arrest me.
Yeah.
Because that's not okay.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so they said, you have to still go every other weekend, but no overnights. And, like I said, it didn't happen at nighttime.
Right.
It was in the middle of the day on a Sunday after church, at the most time when you would not think it would happen. So then when we walked out of the courtroom, my dad chased us down the hallway. Not one cop, no security, nobody came up and stopped my dad from chasing us. And he was yelling at me, you're telling lies. Your father never did this. I didn't do this to you girls. You're lying. And so my mom and I were literally running to the elevator, pushing the button, trying to get on. We got in and made it before the doors closed. And my dad, I guess, ran down the stairs, and he was in the parking lot chasing us to the car.
Oh, wow.
And my mom had one of those little TR6 convertibles, a little Triumph. So they're about this big. Yeah. You're like a little bitty person. And he reached in and grabbed my arm and tried to pull me out of the car. But no cop. We're at the courthouse, and not one cop tried to help us.
Wow.
Now thinking back, that doesn't make any sense. At the time, I didn't think, why is nobody helping us?
Right.
But now, looking back, I do.
Where was everybody? Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we got away from him. And then the next weekend when he came to pick me up, I didn't want to go, and I refused to go. And so I was only going to have to go from 8 to 5 Saturday, bring me home, and then 8 to 5 on Sunday. And so I wouldn't get in the car. So my dad called the cops. And so then the cops came. So we're in this regular neighborhood. All my friends are people are coming out of their houses. You know,
what's going on.
It's a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Why are cars flashing, and why is Christie being forced to get into her dad's car? And so again, well, I don't know what I told my friends. You know, I don't want to go to my dad's. you know? And so anyway, so then that's how it would go. I would have to go with my dad. And so the first 2 Saturdays, he would pick me up and we would go to the park and sit in his car the entire 8 hours or however long it was. Yeah, 8 hours. And he would yell at me and cuss at me and tell me that what happened didn't happen. And basically was trying to tell me to rewrite the story.
Right.
And this is what you're going to say.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to say happened. And all I would say was, Dad, that's not what happened. And then he would and I wasn't allowed to speak unless I said what he wanted me to say. So anytime I tried to stand up for myself, he would just shut me out. And so I just sat there all day with my mouth closed, didn't say a word. And then he would bring me home, then he'd come back and we'd do that again on Sunday. And then the next weekend I was off, you know, I got to stay with my mom. Then he came the next weekend and the same thing happened. Cops came, same thing. And then after that, the third time, he had to call the cops again and he finally gave up. He got sick of it. So after that third weekend, I did not see him for a while.
And at this point, how old are you?
I was still 13.
13.
Because that all happened that summer.
Gotcha.
So that was like by the end of, you know, every other weekend. So by the end of the summer, he gave up.
Gotcha.
Which was shocking.
Yeah.
But I think he was just probably sick of the humiliation of it, of having to call the cops. I mean, he looked like an idiot. Like, really? Like, your daughter's having to be forced to get in your car. Is it really that worth it?
Yeah.
You know, so I think that was more just about he didn't want to go through that, you know.
Over and over every time.
Yeah. So luckily, my fight in that won. I finally felt kind of like I won,
Free,
and I didn't have to go. And then I don't remember really seeing him again until I was 16, but I think he did show up to my track meets every once in a while. Not much. He never was big on coming to our stuff. He didn't. The only time he came to my stuff was when I went to state, which I went to state every year.
Yeah.
But just saying, you know, just bragging. I didn't win, but by God, I was there. But he didn't come to my regular meets. Like my mom was at all my meets.
Yeah.
But that wasn't good enough. I'm only showing up if you make it to the best. So that's the way he made all of us feel. And like looking back at it now, I know that's why he didn't come to the other ones. They weren't important enough. And he didn't make time for us because he was a workaholic. So all he cared about was money, 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 and looking good to everyone. So, so then with my dad, so then I'm in high school. And then my dad he lived in Franklin, but then he moved out to Carthage, Tennessee, which is an hour from here.
Okay.
So luckily at that point, I barely, like, as an adult and like high school and college, I really only had to see him maybe a few times a year.
Yeah.
So I can tolerate that.
Yeah.
I hated to have to see him on Christmas, but I could tolerate it for a little bit, you know. And at that point, I would either have a boyfriend with me or
You weren't alone anymore.
right, yeah. And then I got married, so it wasn't as bad. I could tolerate it, and I didn't have to spend the night and all that. And then, So then
And at this point, what is that like for you? So, are you asking God, why did this happen to me? Are you done with God at this point? Like, because I can't imagine being in your situation, Kristie, and me thinking like, okay, God, where are you? Or I probably would have gave up. Like, maybe you're not real. Like,
I really don't. The only time I remember thinking stuff was when I was little, going, where are you, God? Like, why are you letting me and my sister live in this house? There's the fighting and the abuse. In this house, there's the sexual abuse. You know, like, where's our safe place?
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I don't really remember thinking anything. Like I went,
shut it off.
Yeah, I don't remember being angry with him. I do remember thinking, he's a punishing God, not a loving God. And that was being tested and this and that, and good girl, bad girl, you're going to be punished if you're bad, that kind of stuff, you know. But I don't really remember ever praying. Once I was like in high school and went to Father Ryan at the Catholic school, and then we moved to Chattanooga my junior year. My mom's boyfriend got a job there, so we had to uproot my life and move to Chattanooga. And then my sister never came back from Texas, so that was kind of sad because then I was on my own, just with my mom and the new boyfriend, which I hated him. And so I had a lot of anger towards all these men that my mom would bring in. And I was sad that my sister was gone, but I made it, you know. I mean, I always had a boyfriend every year. You know, I usually had one boyfriend each year, one my freshman year, one my sophomore year, you know, and then I always had a couple of really close friends, but not like a ton of friends. I didn't like to have a bunch. And then we moved to Chattanooga, and I got in with the popular crowd. But I still just had two friends that I really liked the best. Like they were more normal and not popular, you know? And so that crowd was really wild, and they all had a lot of money. So I lived at the bottom. They called it like the valley. I was in the valley in Chattanooga, and they were up on they called it like it was like a big mountain. It was the ridge. They lived up on the ridge or something. So all of their families were really rich, and so they had all their parties there. So that's when my drinking started, was when I was 16. Okay. So I had drank a little bit my freshman year, like tried it with my boyfriend, but I didn't like it. And then when I moved there, I was angry. I did not want to leave Nashville. I had a boyfriend in Nashville, and I had to leave him, but I broke up with him because I knew that wasn't going to last. I'll find someone else here. And then... but I was really mad, and I hated that man she lived with. He got on my every last nerve. He was gross. He smoked, and he coughed all the time. He just grossed me out. And I felt creepy about him, the way he looked at me. And so that's when the drinking began, my junior year. And I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was very fun. I was like, wow, this is good stuff. I did not do drugs. Drugs were not my thing. I smoked pot twice in my whole life. Didn't like it. So drinking was my thing, and boys. I liked boys. And I got a lot of validation from boys. And then I liked sports. So that made me feel good about myself, was being physically active. And then in the middle of my junior year in January, I was in a really bad car wreck, and I broke my neck. I wasn't drinking, thank God. Okay. And a girlfriend of mine was in town from Nashville, and she was with me. She did not get hurt. We were on our way to a party, so we were about to be drinking. So luckily I was not drinking. And so I broke my neck and was in this thing called a halo for 2 months. So I had to be homeschooled for the second semester of my junior year. And I had a boyfriend at the time, and he stayed with me, surprisingly. I look like Frankenstein.
And on that Mean Girls where she gets hit by a bus.
Yes, that's what I look like. That's why I have really good posture still to this day. And that's why I do this with my neck a lot.
Yeah, makes sense.
So then when I went back to school my senior year, I was the new girl again. So it was kind of weird, but it was kind of fun. It's kind of fun being the new girl, except for you don't really totally fit in. You're just the new girl. You get a lot of attention, but then that fizzles, and then everybody else has these strong connections, and you don't have any. So, and I had a boyfriend, but he was abusive. So every boy I've ever dated, except for in 8th grade, was abusive. Oh. So physically and verbally. That's all I've ever known. And so he was very abusive, very jealous. And then after that, so then That was in Chattanooga. Then I went to UT in Knoxville, and then my mom moved back to Nashville. So I was glad about that because at least when I came home from Knoxville, I could go back home.
Yeah.
And so then at UT, yes, that was awesome because I got to party, and I no longer had to worry about anyone in my family. My sister was in Texas. I was free from all of them.
Yeah.
And drinking kind of gave me freedom because when I drank, I did not feel the need to take care of everyone.
Yeah.
I didn't have to take care of my mom, nor my sister, or all of these stupid men.
Got to live for you.
Yeah. So it was fun. So like some of my best memories are from those 4 years at UT because I could just be me. And even though I was drinking, I still just overall, I mean, I've always been a happy person, like a happy little girl.
Yeah.
Like,
in spite of everything.
yeah. I mean, I was sad when I was inside my house, you know.
Once they got you out.
But when I was outside of it, I was able to go about my life and my day and then just come home at night and deal with it at night, you know. So then, and then I never moved back home again. I lived.
So once you were gone, you were gone.
Yeah. So once I went to UT in the summertime, 3 summers I lived at the beach. I moved down to Florida and got a job. And then right before I graduated my senior year, I did my internship in Atlanta. And then after I graduated, I moved back to Nashville.
Okay.
And then my sister moved back from Texas to Nashville.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you guys were reunited finally.
Well, we were reunited momentarily. My sister has a really bad drinking and drug problem. So we were actually living together with her little girl. She had her when she was really young. I think, let's see. My sister was 9. I was 18. So she was like 21 when she had Brittany, my niece.
Okay.
And so Brittany was 3 when I moved back. So we were going to all live together.
Yeah.
I was really excited about it. And then my sister met a man. So we all have these men stories, me, my mom, and my sister.
Yeah.
And so my sister was getting into some trouble. When she moved back to Nashville, she started stripping. And then one night she wanted us to go out with her stripper friends, and she wanted to go to Murfreesboro Road. Now, if you're from Nashville, Murfreesboro Road is not a good road. It is shady. And so she wanted to go dancing at I think it was called Silverado, some honky tonk, or, you know, like a 2-stepping kind of place.
Sure.
And I was like, Kim, I don't want to go there. It's a scary road. Like, I know. She hadn't lived in Nashville in forever, so she doesn't know anymore.
Yeah.
But I went because she's my older sister, and I love her, and I do whatever she says. If I look at my life, I don't know how I survived. I mean, clearly God was there, but I didn't know it.
Yeah, right. At this point, there's no awareness. It's just you.
I just was making it. But it's like my sister and I, we're both like that. We'll be like, can you believe we lived through this? And we just laugh about it.
Yeah.
I don't, because otherwise I think you would want to die.
Yeah.
Or kill yourself easily because it's not fun, And so she had already met the man when she was stripping one night. So he gave her his American Express Platinum card. So my sister's like buying drinks for the whole bar. And she's flirting with these boys that have girlfriends. It's bad. So I'm like, Kim, you don't need to be messing with those boys. Those girls are looking at us. We're going to get in trouble. And I am not a fighter.
Yeah.
I can run, but I can't fight. I've never, I don't know how to. And so anyway, so that ends up in a disaster. So we stay till the bar closes, and then we get in the car, and those people start coming after us. And this is part of the story set, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. But anyway, one of the girls in the truck of the guys that she was flirting with comes up to my car, up to my sister's side, and I'm driving a little Dodge Stealth, which is a little sports car, and it's about this low to the ground, and this parking lot is packed with people. You can't get out. There's cars everywhere. It's like 3 a.m. And I'm like, oh my God, Kim, that girl's running. Put your window up. And of course, my sister puts the window down, yelling at her. And I'm like, Kim, these people are scary. You don't mess with rednecks like this, like we're not from this side of town. And so, but my sister, I I don't know what she was on, but she used to do cocaine. So she may have done some cocaine with one of those stripper girls. I don't know.
Right.
I was drinking a lot, but I don't do drugs. And so then, anyway, I get really scared because then two of the girls start coming towards the car. So there was nowhere to go. So I literally just found one little spot to fit my car through, and I jumped over those cement, things like where you park and you pull up to.
Yeah,
I jumped.
blocks.
Yes, I jumped over one of those. My car went
Scraped all the bottom.
yeah. And so then those girls got in this truck with this guy that was driving, and they followed us. So I was terrified. Like, I am a big chicken. I don't like conflict. I mean, I've been dealing with it my whole life, trying to put it out.
Right.
I don't like to stir it up. And so my sister's sitting there stirring the pot and getting all this going. And then I don't know if somebody called the cops because they saw, oh, these girls are going to get their butts beat, or if a cop was on Murfreesboro Road and saw it happen. But the cops didn't come right away. They didn't come early enough. So anyway, I didn't know that they were still behind us because I took off. And then I pulled over because my hands were shaking.
Yeah.
So I pulled over at some Mexican restaurant. Again, this is 3 a.m, so there's no cars at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I literally, I opened my door and just put my head, I was just trying to get it together. I couldn't even drive. I was drunk. I mean, it probably sobered me up pretty quickly.
I'm sure.
And then before we knew it, that truck pulled in behind my car and had us blocked in. And the guy and the 2 girls came out, and I was sitting there. I didn't even have time to get back in my, to close my door and lock my door. They pulled me out of my car, and the 2 girls held me against the wall at the restaurant, the Mexican restaurant, and the boy just punched me in my stomach over and over. And then luckily the cops came. And so I got a DUI, which totally sucks, but which I wanted to blame my sister for. I told you we shouldn't come over here. I told you, And she's like, don't play with the thing, telling me what to do. I'm like, I'm doing whatever they tell me to do. She's just it's always conflict. I'm always trying to just go with the flow, let's just get this done. So anyway, so then I had to go to jail that night. She bailed me out.
And what happened with the guy?
Well, they got arrested and they found cocaine in their truck. So it came out later. And this was the day after I graduated from UT. I was just a college graduate. We had just moved back to Nashville, me, my sister, and her little girl. And this is my mom. Hey, Mom. Just got DUI. So I was kind of terrified because I thought it was a felony. And so I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is a felony. I don't think it's a felony. I can't even remember. I don't think it is. Anyway, I got it because all that happened when I went to court. I got it reduced to reckless driving.
Okay.
And luckily this judge was a good judge. And so my sister and I, they put us separately and we had to tell our stories, and they said our story was identical, which I don't know how because we were drunk and high.
Right.
But they were identical. And the judge said, this sounds like something out of a horror film.
Yeah.
It was scary. I had nightmares. I've never been involved in something. It was terrible. So anyway, so there's my first DUI. Well, my only DUI. But that did not change my drinking at all, or my drinking and driving.
And did they do mandatory AA at that point, or not yet?
No. So I got it reduced to reckless driving.
Right, that's right.
So I didn't have to do, other than I had to come up with the money to pay the lawyer, I didn't have any consequences. And then it wasn't on my record. So me going out to get a new job, I didn't have to reveal any of this. So thank God, because I was like, because I really was, even though I was a partier, I was a good girl.
Right.
I made good grades. I was responsible. I paid my bills. I did everything right.
Yeah.
And except for going to the bad side of town. So that was the start of our coming back to Nashville. And then my sister stayed involved with that man that had the platinum card. And then she ended up moving in with him. So she just dumped me and left me in that 3-bedroom condo.
Oh, man.
With she took my niece, and they moved in with him in Bowling Green, Kentucky. He was a doctor and had all kinds of money. So she found her
Before, mid-lease?
Yeah, we'd been in there like a month. So then she just stuck me with it. I don't remember what I did, how I figured that out. Maybe she ended up giving me some money to help. I don't know. But it still hurt because we were looking forward to being together again.
Being
like
reunited after-
being sisters. So she must have given me some money because I remember staying in the condo. I don't remember moving to a 1-bedroom. But I was sad because I wanted to be with her again.
Of course.
But that's, it's whatever. So then after that, still wasn't going to church. Like all through college, I didn't go to church. The only time I went is when I'd come home and my mom was with the Catholics, so we'd have to go to midnight mass. Like that is so stupid. Why would you go to church at midnight? I hated that. I thought that was ridiculous. Still to this day, I would never do that. And then met my husband, the man, we're divorced. Met him when I was 24, so 2 years after I moved back to Nashville.
Okay.
I met him at a bar, and he was with a bunch of guys that I knew from high school, but I did not know him. We didn't know each other. He's just a year older, but we didn't know each other. So we started dating immediately as soon as we met, and then we got married 2 years later. So with him, he was physically abusive and verbally. I called it his quarterly rage. He was, emotionally and verbally, like probably on a weekly basis. I don't know about daily, but weekly. But the physical stuff happened every quarter. It was like really like every 3 to 4 months. It's kind of weird. I mean, I had a name for it, his quarterly rage.
Right.
So watch out, And
no kids at this point.
no kids.
Okay.
We were married for 2 years, and then we had our first son. So we have 3 kids. Cooper is now 24, Leah is 22, and Cannon's 18. And then we were together for 14 years, so we were married 12 of those years. And so this is how I came to God. Okay. So now once we got pregnant, we started going to church. That's not how I came to God. We started doing that because my mother-in-law was like, y'all better start going to church because if you want your kids to go, she's from Mississippi. So she says, darling, that's how she talks now, darling, y'all better start going to church or you're not going to be able to get your kids into the school you want them in. Because if you want them to go to Catholic church, you got to start tithing to that church. And then they put the tithers in are the first on the list to get into the schools.
Oh, wow.
So like St. Henry's and St. Matthew's and all the schools. So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know how that is in everywhere, but here, that's what she told us to do.
Right.
So that's what we did. Even though I was fine with them going to public school because I went to public school.
Right.
But we did whatever my husband wanted to do. He made all the rules on everything. I had no say. And so then, we had physical chemistry and we both liked to party a lot. So we had a lot of fun. But then he was abusive too. So then once we had kids, then we had 3 kids, things started getting really bad right before my first son was born. I had thought about leaving him, my husband, then. I'm trying to remember how it all happened. So the house that we lived in, I really liked it. He was a builder. And so we were in our starter home, which I really liked, and we fixed my son Cooper's nursery, fixed it the way it looked really good. And I was working, I'm a personal trainer, and but I wanted to work very part-time when Cooper was born, and we agreed on that. He was totally okay with that, but he always wanted what he wanted. And so all of a sudden he got it in his head that he wanted to build us a new house. And I was like, if we do that, we're going to get in over our head, and then I'm going to have to work more and not be able to be with our child. And so that's when it began. And so I remember I was in Cooper was 2 weeks old, and I was feeding him, and my friend Lisa was there, and Jay, walked in and he said, I found a lot where I'm going to build our house. And I said, I don't want to do that, Jay. I'm happy right here. And, you know, I mean, I had this brand new baby. I was so happy. And I really didn't even, I was scared kind of to be a mom. When I found out I was pregnant, I was scared because I wanted to drink. I didn't want to stop drinking. That just didn't sound fun to me. You know? Like, no, this isn't going to be fun. So that was really what my concerns were. I wanted to have fun and drink. And I was going to have to quit for 9 months. But I did. So I didn't drink while I was pregnant. But then what?
Was it hard to not drink in those?
It wasn't on the second and third pregnancy. The first pregnancy, it was in the beginning because I didn't show for a long time. So people didn't know I was pregnant, and people know me as a big partier. So they're like, why aren't you drinking? And I'm like, well, I'm pregnant. And they're like, oh yeah, you know. So it was hard because we would still go to football games. And so I would buy like the O'Doul's. That tastes terrible. You know, the non-alcoholic beer, but it does still have alcohol in it. So it probably isn't the best. But it's not like I drank it a lot. But no, it was difficult. It was only difficult when we were out in
those settings.
Party places because I wanted to be cool like everyone else. And then I was pregnant on top of it. So not so cool. So I got pregnant very quickly with him. I thought it would take a long time. It took 2 months. And so it was just kind of a shocker. But then when Cooper came, it was like the best, I don't know, it just was like his song. It was like God finally gave me my purpose, were these kids. Because my 3 kids are everything. I mean, I would do anything for them. And it gave me a purpose and somebody to love and somebody that could love me back and hopefully not hurt me. And so when he was born, that song, Leanne Womack, I Hope You Dance, I don't know if you know that song, but it's like, when I hear that song, like that's what I want for him. You know, all my kids. And probably my oldest child is the one that's been affected the most by the damage of his father because he saw more than the other kids. And so I think he holds a lot of insecurities in and a lot of fear. So like that song fits him perfect. I want him to be free like me. And I think he's getting there, you know. He's in the right direction for sure. But like, I don't know, once he was here, I just looked at him and I said, hey, Cooper. And I just knew, like I just had this happiness, this peace come over me. And so when that day when I was feeding him and my friend was there, Jay said, I found this lot that I'm gonna build a house. And I said, I don't want to move. I'm happy here. I don't want to have to work. I want to be with him. And he said, well, I'm doing it with or without you. And that's what he said. And Cooper was 2 weeks old. And so my friend Lisa just looked at me and she was like, Kristie. I was like, I know. And she knew how he was. She's seen him. She's seen him act out when he's drinking and how she knew he was abusing me. So anyway, so I did there for a little while. I would take Cooper in his little car seat and we would go and look at apartments in Bellevue. And I really thought about leaving. I wanted to leave. But then I thought, now I'm going to have a broken home and I'm going to have to work full time and I'm never going to be with him. So I just thought, and I did not want to get divorced because my mom saw so many of them. I wanted to keep my family together.
You wanted more.
So we did what he wanted and he built that house and it was always everything he wanted. I couldn't even pick my own car. He drove whatever, I had to drive whatever car I wanted because it had to be nice enough. Everything, I picked a Yukon. Nope, can't be a Yukon. It's got to be a Cadillac Escalade. Everything, we had to look better and better and better. Nothing was ever good enough for him.
And did you have to end up working?
No.
When you
I did, but luckily we were able to.
Okay.
I mean,
Cool.
he's a hustler. He's a thief. He's a cheat. I figured all that out later.
Right.
He was bringing in money, and I figured out he wasn't paying his vendors. So, but yeah, I still worked part-time, but like 15 hours a week.
Okay.
And when Cooper was a baby, he was such a good baby. My clients loved him. They're like, bring Cooper. So I would just bring him, and he would just eat and sleep. So it was easy. And then some of my clients came to my house, so I would try to schedule it during his nap time. So it all worked out.
Oh,
and me being a self-employed personal trainer was like the best job
Yeah, what a blessing.
mom could have, because I could make it work, And so then we moved into that house. Then Leah, my daughter, she was born in that house 2 years later. And then that house wasn't big enough, so then he had to build us another house, and everything just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I kept confronting his secretary. I know he's up to something. What's he doing? How does he keep bringing these paychecks in? And because the checks just keep getting bigger. And she couldn't tell me because she worked for him.
Right.
And then 2 years later, she called me and she said, Kristie, I quit. I can't work for him. He's the most unethical man I've ever met. And so she showed me everything, all his books. And he owed like $400,000, over $400,000 to different vendors. Like,
oh, wow.
It could be a small business up to a corporate, a bank. But it didn't matter. He owed money to everyone. And in our marriage, I told him when I found this out, I confronted him. So every time I would confront him about his money issues, he would blow up, and that would be his rage. He would hurt me physically, then he would leave us, and we wouldn't see him for days. He wouldn't come home until I called and begged. And that's not a fun thing to do, to beg. You feel it's very degrading, but I would, because I wanted him home. I wanted my kids to have their dad, and I always covered for him. They'd be like, where's Daddy? Daddy's working. Like, it's just a total lie. I actually was making him look better. Like, he made him look like he was this huge provider. No, he disappeared. I don't know where he is. And so then, so in the end, I'll tell you when the final time he left, that he didn't come back. But I started my path with God a year before that, which is what gave me the strength to not let him come back the fourth time he left. So one night, the kids were in bed. I would only talk to them about serious stuff when the kids were in bed, so that they wouldn't have to see it or hear it.
Yeah.
And they were little. They were 2, 6, and 8.
Okay.
And then when we separated, they were 3, 7, and 9, so a year later. So this night, he was laying on the couch, and I went up to him, and I said, can we please talk about the house? We've got to sell this house. We've got to get this debt paid off that you owe. And I told him, I'll go with you to all your vendors. We'll tell them the truth, that the greed got the best of you, and you're done with that. And you want to set up a payment plan and repay these people. And he did not like that plan. He had a few choice words for that. I'm not doing that. And even though I wasn't part of his business, I was willing to do it because I wanted my marriage to work. And I thought if he came clean and got all this pressure off his back, he was putting this pressure on himself.
Yeah.
By cheating all these people. So if you come clean and you're honest, then it'll go away,
yeah.
right? And so, anyway, so he would always walk away from me. He didn't want to ever talk about conflict. So he went into Cooper's room because he knew I wouldn't go in there. So Cooper had a bunk bed, and Cooper was on the top bunk, and Jay went in and got on the bottom bunk. And so I did go in there, not yelling,
right.
But I went in there and I said, we have got to talk. Something has to change. And that's when he looked at me and he said, if you don't get out of my effing face, I'm going to rip your effing head off. And he has said things to me like that before. several times. And again, he's physically hurt me and choked me, so I know he's capable of it. But for whatever reason, that night, it felt different. And when I walked out of the room, I just turned around and walked out, went back in our bedroom. I got down on my knees. We had like a chair and an ottoman, and I got down on my knees and just started praying. And I said, God, I can't live like this anymore.
And this had been the first time that you had reached out to God since you were younger?
That I can remember.
Yeah, right.
Like sitting here thinking about it, if I did, it was maybe the foxhole prayers. Oh, cops behind me, I'm drinking.
Of course.
Those,
But this was
this was, I need help.
Wow.
I want out. I really don't remember one since I was little. But I just knew something had to change. I could not be talked to that way anymore and be treated this way anymore. And so then the next day, for whatever reason, Al-Anon popped into my head, which is for people that live with alcoholics.
Okay.
So even though I knew I had a drinking problem that I needed to face, my bigger problem was my husband. And he drank too. I think now, yes, he probably has. At the time, he may have had a drinking problem, but mine just seemed worse, I guess, because I'm smaller than him. Like, you could tell I was drunk. He could drink a lot, and I couldn't tell,
Right.
And so he probably was equal to me. We just couldn't tell in him. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
And but he had a spending addiction, a severe spending addiction, which is just like gambling.
Right.
He's spending money he doesn't have. He's not paying. He owes these people $400,000.
Right.
And people are suing him. Like, we had subcontractors showing up at our house. We had private investigators. People were showing up out of the woodwork everywhere.
Yeah.
And my kids would be like, Mom, who are they? They were looking for your dad, So anyway, so I went to Al-Anon, and even though I don't know if I was going for his drinking addiction, I was going for his spending addiction, because it's all the same.
Correct.
People, he was choosing the money, the house, the cars, the Titans tickets, the golf course, the private schools. Everything was over his family.
Right.
Because I told him multiple times, like when I was pregnant with the third baby, which do you choose, this house or your family? And he told me to my face, this house. He wanted the money.
Yeah.
He wanted the facade. He wanted us to look perfect. And so then I started going to Al-Anon 3 days a week. And the first month that I was in there, I decided to try AA too. And so I tried doing both. It was really hard though, because the kids were 2, 6, and 8. So Cannon was still at home with me. So that I went to the meetings the 3 days he went to preschool, and I didn't go to any meetings at night because I didn't want to leave my kids with him.
Of course, yeah.
And so, so when I was in Al-Anon, I started, it's a God program. And like everything is about God in that program. And so that's when I started believing that there's a God and that there's a way out of this life, with him at least.
Right.
And then the AA thing, he did not want me to quit drinking. He was like, you're not an alcoholic. I said, can we just take the alcohol out of the house for a month just till I get used to this? And he said, no. He didn't want me. I didn't want to go out with our friends anymore, our couple friends, because they were all big drinkers. So he was very angry that I was trying to change our lifestyle. And I wasn't trying to change him. I was like, if you want
a different
right? I was like, if you want to go out with them, you go. But I'm staying home. I'm not. I mean, I was so sick. I didn't even want to pay a babysitter to leave my kids to go out with a bunch of people I didn't even really care about, So even when I was a big drinker, I was just over that. Once I had my kids, my kids were what started changing my focus of wanting to be a better person and to be there for them. Because even though, like, my drinking, to some people, everybody's story looks different, but I only drank 3 nights a week. I drank Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. I was a very disciplined alcoholic. I think that's the personal trainer in me. So I had schedule of my drinking. My spontaneity, everything is scheduled. So, and I know what my limits are. That's why wasn't interested in drugs, because I didn't know what I could do and couldn't do, what would make me act crazy. I knew what would get me to where I want to be.
Right.
But now, of course, after a certain amount of drinks, I could stop controlling it.
Yeah.
But I was very controlled. So on the other 4 days that I didn't drink, like, I was always a good mom. I never, my mothering skills never changed. They were always number one to me. So I was not one laying in bed hungover. Nope. Just push through that. We were fine. So I know sometimes maybe I emotionally wasn't there, but again, that was probably even a lot more to do with their dad than my drinking, because I was so sad about my marriage, And so I tried the no drinking thing, and I did it for 30 days, and then I quit because he did not support me. And
I felt alone in it.
I was like, forget this. I'm just not doing this. And then at that point, he had somehow gotten my mom on his side. And even though my mom is in AA, somehow she just wanted to join teams with Jay. And I think they knew I was on my way out. Like, I was ready to exit this marriage. And for whatever reason, my mom wanted me to stay in that marriage, even though she knew I was being abused. And so that's what brought me to God originally, Al-Anon. Then I started AA a year later again. August 9th is my sobriety
What made you
date.
make that decision again? Because you had given up after 30
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so I remember the night that I decided to drink again. We were going out with another couple, and I was just like, screw it, I'm drinking tonight. So I made the decision, and I drank. I think I drank before we went to the restaurant. Usually I drank before I drank. So I think we both did. I would have a drink on the way to the restaurant. And then now that you bring that up, it's so weird. On the way home, we were out here in Cool Springs, and on the way home, there was a guy that had a wreck. He wrecked into a guardrail on, what street is that? I can't remember. Anyway, he was walking around his car. He wasn't hurt. And so we stopped, and he was drinking. And my husband said, do you want us to call the cops? And he was like, no. And I'm looking at Jay going, what do you think? Call the cops? We're drinking. Like, no, you idiot, let's go, And so anyway, so we got in our car and left, and I don't know what happened to that guy. But I remember thinking, my God, this is my first time drinking again, and I see a man have a wreck. He wasn't hurt, but his car was totaled, and he was just going to walk away, And of course, he would have gotten caught, and he got his tags. So, we could have gotten a DUI that night. I don't remember if I was driving or if my husband was. And then I kept drinking, but that whole year I was controlling it. So I kept going to Al-Anon, which was good because my growth with God kept going. And I kept asking God, please remove my desire to drink. And he didn't. He didn't remove it. He did help me curb it even more. So I went from 3 nights a week to 3 drinks a week because I would let myself drink as much as I wanted on those 3 nights. I could have 3 or I could have 10. And but then I put all these rules on myself. So then when you're an alcoholic, you're obsessed with it. And so I'm like, should I have all 3 drinks on one night? Should I have one, 2, 3 different nights? Should I do 2 in one?
Planning it out.
Yeah. Like, it's really weird. And only an alcoholic understands that.
Yeah.
And so each week I would try a different plan to see which one was going to work.
But it went from like 3 full days of drinking.
Well, nights. I never drank during the day. Right. Where I would drink anywhere from 3 to 10 drinks. No
so like now you're drinking 3 drinks. And like, Kristie, that's really huge because a lot of the times we go to God and we think like, oh yeah, it's just going to, and it's like, we can't handle it all at once. That's a lot for us to take in. So the fact that you're going from like a whole bunch of drinks to like 3, that's huge.
Yeah.
Like, and yes, you may have still been thinking and planning it out, but that's still such huge forward momentum where you're at a point where now you're like, it's 3. Like I see like such a big from
Yeah.
that moment that you pray and like the road that it takes you, because a lot of the times we associate, right? Like, well, I'm gonna ask God for this, and then you just expect the next day you're just not drinking.
Yeah.
And it's like that isn't what happens, but he does start working the
Right.
moment you ask.
And that's what I learned in Al-Anon and in AA, is that God can remove that desire and those cravings. Now, I do still to this day, I've got almost 16 years, I will still have cravings every once in a while, but it's a passing thought. And as long as I'm doing as long as I'm praying every morning, reading my devotionals, going to my meetings, doing my work, exercising, as long as I'm staying on track, I'm not going to drink.
Yeah.
I know I won't drink today, and I really don't think I'm going to drink tomorrow, but we're supposed to live in one day at a time.
That's right.
So I know today I will not drink, and I know that God will protect that. He was just slowly changing me, and so then I found out in AA that they say, well, God can remove that desire, but sometimes we got to do some work.
That's right.
And so I know that there are some people that can quit without AA, but for me personally, I needed the support. I liked meeting friends in there that understood how I felt.
That's right. Community is so important.
Yeah, and it was fun. I mean, alcoholics are fun people. A lot of us are pretty fun. So, and the stories are funny. Like, you hear some good stories. So, like, I enjoyed going to the meetings, and I also enjoyed when people were real and cried, because I never would let anybody see me cry.
Right.
And that's when I was in Al-Anon, I noticed that thing, like I was telling you, my throat hurt. I've noticed now, anytime I have to cry or I feel fear, my throat starts hurting. It's like a physical ailment. And I think I figured out, and maybe that's like literally that pushing down, like we're trying to push it down so we won't cry.
Right.
I don't know if that's true, but I think it is.
I used to do it all the time. I would like hold my breath to like not cry. And it wasn't like something I consciously thought about. It was just because crying was so shamed.
But it's like my throat literally will hurt.
Oh.
It's like I'm literally, don't come out.
Yeah.
Like, you can't come out, because I just know as a child, my dad never cried. My mom cried, but she was always in her closet. So we wouldn't hear her, but we did hear her. And then that's what I would do with my kids. I would go in my closet and cry. And so, yeah, it was not okay to cry. My dad would say, what are you crying about? You don't have anything to cry about? Okay, I'll make a list for you, Dad. But so it's like, so I learned God's going to help me, but I got to do a little work here. Sure. And so then I figured out I was ready to do the work. So then when I went back into AA, I remember it was on day 18. Like, I would go into the meetings and I would say, my name is Kristie, but I would not say I'm an alcoholic. I was not going to admit that.
Yeah.
I knew that things were out of control. I knew that, but I wasn't going to say that. So finally, on day 18, I finally realized that from cutting down to those 3 drinks, I was so mad at myself. I was like, how can I be so disciplined in every other area of my life, but I can't go down to 0 drinks? Like, it wasn't registering in my brain how I can make everything else happen, but not this. And so then I finally realized, because you have a problem, you are an alcoholic. So when I went to my meeting that day, I said I'm an alcoholic for the first time.
How did that feel?
It actually felt really good. It felt, because I guess God was telling me it was okay to say that. There's a lot of shame around that.
Yeah.
Because everybody thinks alcoholics are bad people.
Yeah.
And some of them are, because they have other problems besides just alcohol.
That's right.
Like they're psychopaths or something, or whatever. But I'm not a bad person. I just have a drinking problem. And so that, and then this was what happened with my husband. So at this point, I was sober for 7 months, and I had told him either that day or earlier in the week, I'm not living like this anymore. I'm filing for divorce. And he thought I was lying. And I said, no, I'm not. So I found a lawyer. I had been saving my money because for those 3 years, when Cannon was born, my third baby, I had told him if we're having another child, I'm not working. I didn't want to work at all because I knew, I know my limits. I cannot handle this reckless husband and 3 kids and work. I can't do it. And so he was okay with that. Because again, that just made him look better. He's a better provider if your wife can stay home. So he was totally okay with that. And then, so my lawyer was out here in Franklin, and my husband called me, and he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm on my way home from the lawyers." And, and he said he didn't believe me. And I said, "Well, the lawyer told me that I need to file married but separate on our taxes." And the reason I brought it up is because he would cheat on our taxes. And he would start signing my name on our taxes, tax returns or whatever. And so anything that has to do with money, he would explode. And so he just went off. And I said, "Well, I'm doing what she said because I'm going through with this." And then he said, "Where'd you get the money for the retainer fee?" And I said, "I've been saving it." And so then he said, "Well, I'm leaving." I said, "Okay, you do what you got to do." And so we both got home at the same time, and I gave him the lawyer's card. I said, "This is her name." And I don't really know what else was said. And I had made him move downstairs in the basement like a month before that. So he went downstairs and packed a bunch of clothes and left. And then he just disappeared for 2 weeks. We didn't see him.
Oh, wow.
And because the other times, he left 3 other times in the last 2 years, but he would leave like 3 or 4 days. He never took our money out of the bank.
This time he took money out.
He took all of it, except for $3,000. He took all of our money. And so he left, and then I went to our insurance guy because we had a whole life policy. So this whole last year that we were together, his business was just, because I think his reputation was getting ruined. He was not bringing any more jobs. We had $50,000 in our retirement fund, and we were living off of that because he was not bringing much money in. But I thought we still had a couple months' salary left in there.
Yeah.
And so, but I had to go to the insurance guy to get that money out. And so when I went, there was $3,000 left.
Wow.
And our mortgage was over $3,000. So at this point, I was a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids.
Right.
And he left, and there was no money. And we had $50,000 in there, and we were down to 3. And so, first of all, I was embarrassed because he was like, "You didn't know that he took this money out?" I was like, "Nope." And I said, "When did he get this money?" And he said, "He took it out April 1st. And this was April 12th. He left on April 12th. And
He did it in advance.
oh, yeah. He knew what he was doing. He was planning it. And he even told one of my best friends, Marianne, he told her husband that he was thinking about leaving. And my friend Andy's has a really strong faith. Their whole family does. And he told him, "Please don't leave. Don't leave your family. Don't do that." Of course he did. So then he was, so I really didn't know what I was going to do at that point. I had 0 money. And so the first week he was gone, we didn't hear from him. And I'd not once thought about drinking again. Not one time.
Wow.
And not at least in that
Right.
time period right then, maybe later down the road. And so all of these miracles started happening. So after the first week, I was like, okay, he's not coming back because he usually wouldn't stay gone longer than 4 days. So this was not his normal pattern. And so I was like, I better get back to work. And so I called all my clients, and they're like, "When are you starting back?" I said, "Yesterday." So within 1 week, I had picked up 5 clients. So it was just one miracle after another started. And then that made me like feel good about myself, like give me some confidence that I will be able to provide for my children. And then I decided to go back to school and get my master's. That was a crazy idea. I I did that for a few weeks and I dropped out. That was too much. I was trying to sell our house, our rental property, to raise 3 little bitty kids, and stay sober.
Yeah.
And my mom was against me. She was with my husband on his side, so I didn't have anybody to help me. And then, luckily, I had this spiritual advisor at the church, even though it was at the Catholic church. My husband had made me go to some Catholic retreat, which I was against going, but he made me go. But I got a spiritual advisor out of it, and that actually helped because I had been going to her for the last 4 years and had been revealing all of this stuff about my marriage. And so when he finally left, then that helped. I was able to get financial aid for my children for their school for next year because she went to the board. She was on the board of the school.
Wow.
And so she said, Kristie needs our help. So the church, and it was a Catholic church, said they were helpful to me. They helped.
It's like how God's just constantly providing.
I mean, it was just boom, boom, boom. It was like miracle. And it was all from me being sober and choosing to not let this man hurt me again. So if you choose God's way and you decide to not drink and you decide to get rid of people that treat you like crap, that make you feel bad about yourself, where you can't light your light can't shine when you have these people pushing you down. And I mean, it was constantly telling me I wasn't lovable and nobody loved me, and and I believed that. You believe it, even though you know it's not true.
Yeah.
And I felt like it, but my children loved me and I loved them, so I had them.
Yeah.
And so then. Her name was Marianne too, and so the church helped me pay my my utilities and some of my bills for a few months until we got back on track. They didn't help pay the mortgage, but that was a big mortgage, which of course was his fault. He wanted that big mortgage, and so and then we were able to get out of. We got the house sold in by July, 4th of July, we moved out, and that he left in April. And he came back April 24th at my marathon. I was running a marathon, and he showed up at that. Okay, really?
That's random.
Yeah. But I said, you went too far this time. So anyway, and then one day I was dropping my kids off at St. Matthew's at school, and this lady that I used to train, I was just sitting I was thinking about going into church that day, but I didn't know if I could handle it, because I didn't know if I was going to start crying. So I didn't want people to see. So I was just sitting in my church in the parking lot in my car trying to get together. And Monica pulled up. And so I put my window down. She said, hey. And she's like, hey, how have you been? I haven't seen you. And I'm like, I'm okay. And she's like, how's Jay? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And she's like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, he's gone. And she's like, what do you mean he's gone? I'm like, he disappeared. And she's like, what? And so her family, they're very wealthy, and she's very sweet. Well, anyway, she's like, what are you going to do, Kristie? I said, I don't know. It's only been a week. I don't have a plan yet, but whatever. I don't know. I said, I'm going back to work. Do you want to start working out again? And she was like, well, I can't right now, blah, blah, blah. And then she said, hold on. So she gets her checkbook out and she writes this check for me. And I knew exactly how much it was going to be. I just knew it. And she hands it to me through our car windows. And she said, don't look at it now. Wait until you drive off. And I was like, Monica. And she's like, Kristie, my family has money. This money is not going to hurt my family. We can provide for my family without this. So I want to help you, so take this as a gift. And I said, well, whenever you're ready to start working out, I'll barter it off and we'll work it off. And she's like, well, that's not necessary. And so anyway, so later when I drove off, it was $1,000. And I knew that's what it was going to be, which was like, that's a lot for me. I was going to buy some food and some gas and the basic necessities, to keep our... the church was paying the utilities so I could keep the water. And, it was like just goodness. And then when the lady at church found out, it was like I would go to the mailbox and there would be Publix gift cards and Kroger gift cards. Like, I'm just talking just everywhere. Like, it was just coming out of everywhere so that we could survive.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't need him back. I'm not taking him back. I can do this with God and these people that are helping me, and I'm going to accept their help. Because I didn't want to accept people's help either, because that's just felt embarrassing, And then, Marianne at the church was like, Kristie, I want you to use the food pantry. And I was really embarrassed to do that. I did not want to do that. But I did. And it was just fine.
That's right.
And I was actually happy. Like the kids would come on there, Mom, you got Fruit Loops. Like we were happy over the tiniest things. That's and I still had to use the food pantry off and on for a few years. It's several years I had to use it. Not every week, but once a month, every 6 months, when we were just really barely had anything, I was like, you can go, because Marianne would let me come when she knew nobody was going to be around, because she knew I was embarrassed, and then their dad found out about it. I don't know how. I think they told him by accident. We didn't tell him anything because we were all scared of him, because we knew he'd get mad. And then he said, don't you dare let anybody see you going in the food pantry. And I'm like, well, Jay, you're not really helping me here. You're not giving me child support. And so what am I supposed to do? And then one day he made a comment, well, I'm glad you got that as a resource. Like,
wow.
These are your kids too,
Yeah.
So it's just, but it was like, even though it was embarrassing, it was like to see them, how happy they were over cereal.
Yeah.
And I was too, because I was like, they got crunch berries, So like we were just happy over these simple things. And so then everything was God. That whole year of Al-Anon, that whole first year of my sobriety. And then we moved in July to an apartment, which was not really fun, because with 3 kids and we're outdoor people. And it just felt, and it was nice. They were nice apartments, but I just didn't feel right in it. And then more miracles kept happening. So then one day I was running through my neighborhood, and you just tell me too when you want me. Okay. Going. And so I'm running through my neighborhood where we still live in the house, and not before we went to the apartment. And so one of my neighbors was sitting out on her front porch, and she's like, Kristie, and she called me up. Well, I hadn't seen her in forever. And me and my kids, I thought she was I thought she was being abused by her husband. Like her sons, one of them was good friends with my oldest child. No, she had cancer. I had no idea. That's why I never saw her out.
Wow.
And we thought she was abused, because literally my kids would go over there and they wouldn't let anybody in their house. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because she was sick and whatever. Yeah. But nobody would. The kids didn't tell my kids, so none of us. So I was just always guessing. So anyway, so I went up and talked to her, and then she asked me, "Well, where's Jay?" And so I told her the same thing. Like, I'm tired of covering for him. Yeah. I'm tired of saying, "Oh, he's in Knoxville working," or "He's doing." No. Yeah. He's gone. Yeah. And we don't know where he is. And so I said, "He's gone." And, everybody's like, what do you mean? Nobody gets there. What do you mean? He's gone.
Gone.
And then so she's like, Kristie, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I just started back my training business, so I'm trying to pick up clients. And she was like, oh my God, hold on, let me go get Kurt. So that's her husband. So he's the athletic director at FRA, which is a private school in Brentwood. And he just happened to be looking for a female cross-country coach. So how random is that?
Wow.
And I used to run track and cross-country. Right. So he came out there, and he was like, well, Kristie's going back to work, and I think you're looking for a coach, aren't you? And he was like, yes, we need a female coach. And I was like, he was like, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah. I said, I got to figure it out, because Cannon was starting kindergarten. Yeah. So I didn't want to have to be away from him. It was hard. Yeah. I only did it for a year because I had to leave Cannon in the childcare at school after kindergarten, after he was there all day. And I felt really guilty. And so, but it worked for the time. It got us through. And so God took care of Cannon. Wow. I just felt like such a terrible mom. But some days I would have time to go pick him up. And then I would bring my baby jogger. And I would push him in the baby jogger with these 16-year-old kids that are running like 5-minute miles with these kids and my baby. And he was 5. He wasn't a baby. Yeah. But he couldn't run as fast as me. Right. So I was huffing a 30-pound kid. It was a lot of work. So I knew this job is only going to to be temporary.
Yeah.
But he said, well, we can pay you in 2 separate checks or 1 big chunk. And I was like, I'll take 1 big chunk, please.
Yeah.
And so I had already signed the lease on that apartment because we were about to have to move out of our house.
Right.
And so the only way I could get out of this lease was to pay this big chunk up front. And so that check literally covered the amount to a T.
Wow.
So we did live in the apartment for 6 weeks, but we were able to get out. And then we found a condo back in our old neighborhood for $1,200 a month, which is really unheard of.
Yeah.
It's a nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's just unheard of. And then I was able to keep my kids at their same school. I was fine with them going to public, but at this time, our whole lives, their dad was gone. I was back at work. I wanted to keep anything the same if we could. So at least at this point, we were able to get back into the neighborhood where they had all their neighborhood friends.
Right.
I was still able to keep them at St. Matthew's because we were able to get 50% discount. And then their dad paid his half and I paid half of my half. So, I used to get refunds on my taxes, and literally I would make a deal with God and be like, because I'm not materialistic. The private schools mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
It was only stability for my children. And so I said, but when the money's not there, if I don't get this refund, they're going to public school. And so for 5 years, I was able to keep them in their same school to give them that stability. And then they still had their neighborhood friends, which were the public school kids. So they had both
stability.
So when they went to public school, they had all those friends too.
Yeah.
And so then after 5 years, I finally was not getting refunds, which was good because that meant I was making more money in my business.
Yeah.
So that was good. And so then I was like, okay, y'all, we're going to public school, which they were fine with. They didn't care. It was their dad that cared.
Yeah.
And so anyway, like everything, I was able to just do it. Now, if you put on paper my bills and what I was bringing in,
Didn't add up.
nope.
That's God math.
So it was God. I mean, it was not there. And how we were eating every week, because I really did not use that food pantry often. I mean, maybe a few times a year, if that, after that first year.
Right.
So it made 0 sense. I mean, we were just barely making it, but we were so happy because we didn't have all that.
Right.
The fighting in the house and the money problems. And then, of course, I did make more mistakes. 2 years later, I did meet another man who was equally as abusive, basically to the same man, except for their dad was an extrovert, more of an extrovert. This one was an introvert. And, but they were both criminal behavior, abusive, with money, dishonest, just not living a godly life, not trying to do God's will. So I got wrapped up in that. And then I was with him for 4.5 years. We dated 2.5 and we're married for 2. And he was abusive and he had 3 kids. I loved his kids. We had 6 kids, 5 boys and 1 girl. And it was a lot of fun because I loved being a mom.
Yeah.
And his boys really liked me and I liked playing with them. So I think one of the reasons I wanted to be with him so badly is because his mom treated me like I was her daughter. She treated my kids like they were her grandkids. So it was kind of replacing what I had lost. Like I didn't have my mom in my life anymore. So she took my mom's place. Then his sister took my sister's place because my sister still drinks and stuff. I don't have a relationship with her because she can't. She's drunk all the time, and she lives in Fort Lauderdale. So, I think that was part of the reason I was so attracted to that.
Sense,
I was trying to replace that, and I was trying to give that to my children, so that, replace a family for them.
Yeah.
So anyway, that ended badly. Luckily, I was able to get out of that. The only reason I think I finally had the strength and the courage on that is because really, I don't know if all 3 of his boys, but 2 of them started bullying my youngest child, Cannon. And, my counselor said once, Kristie, you protect your children, but you never protect yourself. So, but if they wouldn't have started hurting Cannon, I may have stayed in that marriage. But luckily, Cannon wouldn't tell me the truth, and I knew it was happening.
Yeah.
And then finally one day he said, he was only maybe 7 or 8. Let's see, I think he was 9. And he said, Mom, if you don't, and he said, break up. He forgets we were married. He said, if you don't break up with Brad, I'm going to go live with Dad. That's all I had to hear. And I told Brad, I said, you've got 6 weeks, because they moved into our house. And I said, you're out. I'm done. So luckily, I felt, again, it didn't, with Cannon, it didn't go on for too long because I knew it was happening. But I told him, you've got to tell me.
Yeah.
Stop hiding, because he was covering for them because he loved them.
Yeah.
And he saw his mom be treated badly, and that you still love those people.
Right.
So he thought it was. So I was passing that along to my children, that you let these other people, and that was something too with their dad, because I always saw my mom abused. I didn't want my boys to grow up to be abusers, or for Leah, my daughter, to be abused by a man, or even men are physically abused.
Right.
Because my son did date one girl she was verbally abusive, and I think one time punched him. Luckily, he's a very good man, and he was able to calm her down. Yeah, but I didn't. They were 3, 7, and 9 when their dad and I separated. So I was hoping it would be early enough to where we could get out of that, where they wouldn't carry on those same. And as far as I know that my oldest child is a great boyfriend. I always talk to his girlfriends, and he's very loving. And my youngest one doesn't have a girlfriend yet, but I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And Leah, this last boyfriend she had, he was not a good seed, but she has always dated really nice boys.
Good.
So hopefully we have been able to. Yeah. So and then I think the fact, and I've always told them, I'm sorry I was never able to show y'all what a loving marriage or relationship looks like between a man and a woman, but I was able to show you what it's like for a mom to love her children unconditionally, and when someone is treating you badly, you walk away.
That's right.
And even though I stepped back into another one 2 years later, I eventually walked away from that too. And they didn't see as much in that one because it didn't last as long. So I don't really have a lot of regrets about my drinking, because my kids didn't really see a lot of it. I did it mostly when they went to bed, but I did have regrets about marrying that second man. I didn't have regrets about marrying their dad, because when I made that decision, I was 26 when I married him.
Right.
I was a drinker. He was a drinker. I was just doing right. And I got those 3 kids from him.
Right.
And I do see the good parts of their dad that they got from him.
Yeah.
So I don't hate their dad. I still sometimes, kind of like him sometimes. But I don't harbor anger really against him. I've had a lot of anger in the past, but I can at least see the good things in him that they got from him.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
And then the second husband I felt very ashamed.
And at that point,
I was sober.
But were you going to church at that point, or it was still happening at? So through that, I kind of used AA as my church. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I would still go to the Catholic church. So I didn't want to confuse my kids too much.
Right.
We did go to the non-denominational church sometimes when I was still married to their dad, and then sometimes after, but he would get mad at me. Don't take them to that crazy church. He thinks anything outside the Catholic Church is crazy people. And he thinks it's just a bunch of losers trying to find themselves. Well, okay, aren't we all? And so we would still go to the Catholic Church.
Right.
And I had my relationship with God, but it was not through the church. It was through AA. But I liked the structure of the kids and I going to church and the stability of it. Because when St. Matthew's really rallied around me, when we needed help.
That's right.
And so it did make me feel really close to them, not the whole church, but just
Right.
that one female. And as a whole, though, like they were really there for us. They pulled together for us. So that felt good to do that. And then eventually, and then my kids were getting sick at the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
So then we would sometimes go to non-denominational churches, and then I started going back to church a year and a half ago at Cross Point because my daughter was dating that boy that she was really in love with, and he cheated on her, and he broke her heart.
Right.
And I could tell he was bad from the second I met him. She's never told me if he was physically abusive, but I don't think he was, but I think he put fear in her. Like he would punch holes in the walls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that was going to come in the future if she stayed with him. So anyway, when she would come home from Knoxville crying, she'd say, "Mom, can we go to church?" And I'd say, "Yeah, we can." I've been wanting to try the downtown Cross Point. And so ever since then, I've gone every Sunday unless I'm out of town. And then my daughter is on this gigantic path, which I've told you and Katie about, and she got baptized in Orlando recently and did some evangelizing in Orlando, and now she's off to Portugal today for a little adventure. But her faith is growing, and it's, you know, when you have somebody that hurts you really bad, and that's what happened with me. I got hurt really bad, and then you turn to God finally. Yeah. And then he showed up. And God has been showing up for 15 years now. Well, 16, because 17, because I started Al-Anon before I got sober. Right. Yeah. So like, I'm pretty much on fire for him, and I don't know, I can't.
Well, let me ask you this. For whoever sees your testimony, what is something you'd want to say or want them to know from your story?
I mean, you've got to dig deep to find the courage. And the way I started doing it before I got into AA, like when I was on my treadmill, I would watch TV Evangelist every day, and my husband would make fun of me. "What are you listening to? What is that crap?" So you have to be willing to be ridiculed for your faith. And I would listen to the series, whatever, in my car, in my fancy Escalade. I was like, well, now I've got all these stations, and I would listen to different preachers. Yeah. So I would say, start opening yourself up to godly people or godly things, godly sermons. You know, start reaching out and trying to find a better way for yourself, because there is a better way, and you don't have to do it alone. And when you start just taking one tiny step, God just comes in. I mean, all it took was for me to go to an Al-Anon meeting, and just miracles started happening. So whatever it is that, whether it's an abusive marriage or alcohol or drugs, ask God for help and guidance.
Amen. Amen.
And of course, I'm always willing to talk to any of your people at your church if they would want to meet with me separately to help find that courage, because I would have loved to have had somebody to help me find that courage.
And you know, Kristie, from your story, I'd say you were alone for most of your journey, but it's where I feel like most of your resilience has come through. And seeing God's hand throughout your whole entire, from that moment that you got on your knees, it was like that was that breaking point. You came to the end of yourself, and then watching from that moment all of the God winks, as like I like to call them, like God showing up. I'm here, I got you. And now to the point where your daughter and her faith, and she's evangelizing, and just seeing how God has brought so much fruit from that one moment that you reached out to him, and that there's no one truly too far gone for God that he can't.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to share your story, because I haven't heard the whole thing like I did today. But man, does it not really just grow your faith and show like you had a hard life, but yet look at where you are today.
Yeah, and it's just really all coming, like both of my boys are on a path. And I think Leah's got kicked in a little bit more because of that boy hurting her. But my oldest child, like, I've always been alone and standing up to their dad. And now my children are standing up to him too. Not my youngest one yet, he's not there yet, but my 24-year-old and my daughter stood up to him yesterday. They're finally standing up too. So like, I'm not alone, and they know they're not alone. We all have each other. And you know, who knows, maybe that'll perform some kind of miracle for their dad, because that would be what would be best for all of us.
That's right.
If he were to find God. I mean, so it's just, it does all come back. One day you just think, how am I ever going to get through this? And then one day your kids just start exploding and doing, you know, just, you see all these good things happening. And, you know, it's all, like you said, it's from that one moment of breaking down, asking God for help. And then he just started putting ideas in my head of how to get that help.
That's right.
Al-Anon, put on your TV and watch these shows while you're running, and, you know. So, yeah. So
that's beautiful.
It's good.
Well, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for asking me to.
Yeah, I know that it's going to help so many people. And when I did my testimony, I didn't know what would come of it. And I've seen the fruit. And that's why I knew there was something beautiful in your story, because I could feel it. Like, you exude a lot of resilience, a lot of pureness in spite of everything you've gone through. And I was like, I have to share her story. Someone needs her story. And I don't know who that person is, or people, or thousands of people, but everything you went through has purpose, and that's why I wanted to do this. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad I did it. Thank you for asking.
And happy to.